Welcome to another episode of Mysteries of the Superstition Mountains. And recently, once again, we were able to sit down with Superstition Mountain expert Ron Feldman. Now, this guy owns the OK Corral here in Apache Junction, takes people up there. He's traversed just about every trail there is up there and then some. So he's a wealth of knowledge. If you want to go to anybody who knows about the Superstition Mountains, he's the guy to go to. And I asked him the question about the mines themselves. Were the Peralta mines the same ones that Jacob Waltz found up there? Here's what he had to say. Does the stories about the Peraltas really play into this and the mines supposedly that they had back there?
Well, the Spanish, you understand, were probably the greatest prospectors and miners the world's ever seen, including probably today. But they were here. Peraltas, the Spanish, whatever you want to call them. Yes, I do believe that there was a Spanish party here. They did prospect heavily. Their name might have been Peralta. Peralta is like Smith, you know, so it's pretty prevalent. But, you know, the Spanish weren't stupid. They didn't go into the west side and prospect for gold because there isn't any, and you can't find any evidence that there would be. Like I said, the quartz is wrong. It's hydrothermal quartz. Predominantly doesn't have any mineral in it. Mesothermal and epithermal are the two quartzes that run gold. The Goldfield Mountains here, where we're sitting, is epithermal, and this is a rich ground out here. The Spanish were here. They prospected and mined a little bit here. They weren't stupid, and they went to the east side. And they did locate mines there, and I do believe they were massacred by the Apaches. Not here on the face of the mountain, but over on the east side. And then, of course, they left the mines because they were massacred, and I believe that the Dutchmen got into one of those.
So what you're telling me is that they weren't actually by Weaver's Needle in that area. They were actually on the east side. And
they might have come out this way.
Did they backtrack? Some of them may have backtracked this way?
Well, it's possible because they did. There were some that were here prospecting here. There was an old Spanish tunnel found on this property, the way it was timbered and logged and so forth. So yeah, they did prospect here, not heavily, but they did some mining over there. You know, when you consider on the east side, a spitting distance from where I'm talking about in the early 1900s, middle 1900s, there was actually a mill there out of Rogers Canyon. Are you familiar with Rogers Mill?
I'm not familiar with the mill, no.
I've been to the location. I found the remnants of it. I have a piece of rock that came from the mill that's all melted from the mill that I picked up out there.
Now, is it on the way up to Rogers Trough in that area?
Well, no, it's actually beyond Rogers. You go into the wilderness,
okay,
and it's off of Rogers Canyon.
Okay.
Right up alongside Iron Mountain.
Okay.
The mill was there. Well, what do they need a mill for in those times? They were mining big time back there. If you go into the records, you'll find all kinds of mines back there.
Yeah, but were they after gold or were they after silver?
Predominantly they were silver, but with every silver mine, there's always gold. And I do believe that the one mine that the Dutchmen worked was predominantly a silver mine. That's what the Spanish were working, silver. But they found, or he did, a lens of gold. And what they did is they stoped up into the ceiling and took the gold out. They dropped it. I can show you a mine out there. Well, I can't anymore, and I won't. But I can show you a mine out there where this huge, you crawl on your belly, and you get to this room, and the room's at least as big as the inside of my building, and they stoped up. It was stoped out. So, consequently, that's the mine that I believe is the Dutchman. It's called the Silver Chief. The Silver Chief was a name that came later, and it was mined in the early 1900s, but that is the location of the Dutchman mine.
That was in the Superstitions?
It's in the wilderness.
I did come across a mine like what you're talking about, but you didn't have to crawl in. You go in, they had the pilings, and it opened up into a big stoop. That's over by Raymert.
No. Well, okay, yeah, no, and that's a totally different thing.
You know the one I'm talking about.
No, that's not it.
Had to walk across a railroad tie or something to get to it.
No, that's not it.
Okay, all right. Gee, Ron, I don't know what to say when you say that's the mine.
Yeah.
So then why hasn't that mine been verified?
Well, that's a good question also. My son and I and Jack Sanfelice and some other authors have written about it and somewhat verified it. As far as getting to the nitty-gritty and being able to prove it, there's only one way you're going to prove it. There's only one way you would ever find the Dutchman mine. Geologically, you have to prospect your way to it. So again, you have to have the right elements for gold to even form. And you can prospect to a mine. You can, you know, I haven't gone to the point of saying, even in my books, although I do say this is the mine, this was the mine, and this is where it is, I haven't gone to the point of saying, okay, now here's the proof. I'm not comfortable doing that right now. I can do that, and I probably will someday. I may write about it someday. I might do a TV thing. I don't know. I told you about a treatment that I did.
Yeah.
And that whole treatment was exactly what we're talking about, the proof. Now, the other thing to prove this, okay, is you're going to have to take people out to the mine, okay? And now you're dealing with the Forest Service again. And that's going to be difficult. And that's another reason. I can't just sit here and tell you the proof. You know, I need to take you out and show whoever the proof.
But
and then we can put it on paper.
If we were, say, to want to go out there, you could show us how to get there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, okay.
But I, you know, as far as, you know, filming anything commercial out there is illegal.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got to tell you that. However, I've taken a lot of film crews out there, but they were always under the okay of the Forest Service. Eventually, I had to battle them, but I always got approval from them. It's just very difficult. Now, there are some loopholes there. And once I had, there was a film crew from the Netherlands actually came out. And they had a dickens of a time. They couldn't get permission to go in there, and that's what they wanted me to take them on horseback. And I went to the Forest Service, and then all of a sudden somebody came up in the Forest Service. Well, if they're filming digitally, now this was years ago, a digital camera, that's okay. Well, all the cameras now, aren't they pretty much digital? So, I mean, there are, I don't know. I just know that there have been some film crews that I have filmed with on the Dutchman in recent history, and I've told them it's going to be an uphill struggle. I'll help you all I can. And what they've managed to do is they take the easy way out. They don't go to the Forest Service, they'll film out here and make it do.
Are there places up there in the mountains that match areas on the map that are not the right area?
The profile map?
Yeah.
Well,
but there's a lot of places that look like that.
There's a lot. I could take you to Rogers Canyon and see a duplicate map. Matter of fact, I can take you out here in the gold fields and show you the map. Yeah. So the map fits a lot of places.
It fits a lot of places, and we were out there. We were out there at Rogers. And,
the only thing you're talking about is the needle that really might kind of.
Yeah.
But yeah.
They say sombrero.
Sombrero, El Sombrero. And I can take you over to Salt River and show you the map too. So there's a lot of places.
There's a lot of places.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
You know, like the Three Red Hills.
Yeah. One of the most, as I was saying, there's only a couple people that I would hang my hat on in their story, and one I mentioned inside the shop, and that was John Cochera. And his story, I partially published it in one of my books, but someday I may write that story too. But his story and what he found is the absolute proof that the Dutchman mine exists and where it does exist. And what is the only thing, I'll ask you a question. What is the only thing that would prove in your mind that this is Dutchman gold?
Well, as I understand it, it has to match the area geologically. What I like to say, it has its own DNA.
There you go, the ore.
Yeah, it doesn't identify with any other.
That's correct, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. And the ore that John Cochera and his brother, he was a customer of mine for 17 years. I used to pack him in the mountains. He was a Dutchman hunter. And he got to a place in his life where he couldn't come out anymore, and we had become pretty good friends. And he said, Ron, he said, I'm going to tell you a story. And he said, 1962, he and her brother hiked up on top of Peters Mesa, Malapai actually, and in some saddlebags, and I detailed this story. I found 24 pounds of very, very rich gold ore. And I've used a lot of it. He was a jeweler. He made jewelry.
You found it?
John Kocher and his brother, Joe.
Okay.
And he said, I have no use for it anymore, and I know you're interested. Would you like to buy what I have left? And he had 6 pieces left, and I bought all of them. And I gave one to the museum, which promptly I think has disappeared years ago, but I won't get into any of that story. But the only piece that is in existence today that I know of is the big piece I have. And what happened was I had the grand idea. You see, Dutchman ore does exist.
You're talking about the matchbox? Or?
Yes, the matchbox and gold ore.
Okay.
He has that too. I don't know if you know who that is. But at any rate, sufficient to say I've seen it many times. And I said, I wonder if there's a way to compare this. Well, the way to compare it would be to what Kocher found to what Dutchman ore was that was left. And electron scanning microscope was the test. Well, at that time, I couldn't get anything done with the only electron scanning scopes were in colleges. If you weren't a professor, they didn't talk to you. So at that time, and I just re-met him again, Tom Glover, I don't know if you know Tom. No. He was a Dutchman hunter, and he's written books on it. Tom's a good researcher, and at that time, I sold him a piece of, I had Kocher's ore. Well, he was a professor, I believe in Oregon. And I discussed this with him, and he got the job done. And it's outlined in his book. And there are records that exist. So what he did, he did even better than what I suggested. He went to the guy that owned Dutchman ore, and he said, okay, I'll loan it for that because it's non-destructive, the test. He took Kocher's ore, he took all the Goldfield ores, the Black Queen, the Mammoth, the Bulldog, and for good measure, he went and took the Vulture Mine at Wickenburg because there's bullshit stories that the Dutchman got it from there. So he took all those in for a test. And have you heard this story?
No.
And the results were, there really, as I mentioned before, only 2 really types of quartz that kind of have epithermal, mesothermal. That's where gold is deposited. And on the west side, they're hydrothermal quartz veins. There's no mesothermal, there's no epithermal. Now, the results were that all of well, I'll start with the Vulture Mine. It was so different visibly from anything else that he brought in, they didn't even run it. So it didn't even look like anything, including Dutchman ore. All of the Goldfield ores were highly similar to each other, and they were epithermal quartz. So everything out here is epithermal. Now, Dutchman ore and Kocher's ore were mesothermal. And there was a 75% chance, this is what it said, that they either came from the same source, same location, or a related source. What's that tell you? So, why did he find it on top of Malapai when I'm telling you it's way east of there? Well, there is an old Spanish trail that goes through there. It's actually monumented. I followed most of it. And it goes across Malapai, up and across Geronimo, and it comes down out at the Salt River. I've hiked that. I used to go in that way a lot. And I do believe that the Spanish, when they were prospecting out there and mining, they were packing it out. And still, the best way to get out of the mountains was to the river. And that would have been an avenue to go over the high mountaintops rather than through the canyons and the brush and the boulders, go through the high mountaintops down into the river.
Makes sense.
And I believe they lost this off of one of the pack, whatever. That's what Kocher found. So that in itself, and the documentation that happened, is proof to me, beyond a shadow of doubt, beyond everything else that exists that I know of, that Dutchman ore really is from the superstitions.
It's just amazing to me, though, that after all this time, that nobody has ever really been able to go back there, which we need to do, and document this.
Well, I've documented some of it, and Glover's got it in his book. Jack Sanfelice got it in his book. Jesse's got it in his book. It's been on TV. I've done TV things where I've actually talked about the East Side. Matter of fact, the last one I did was for America Unearthed. It was a history thing, and we talked extensively about the east side. So it's been out there. But yeah, as far as documenting it, I'd love to delve more into the Cochera story and bring that out. and that is kind of the proof of the pudding.
So how do we do that?
Well, to honestly get that, oh, by the way, I didn't tell you that. The ore that is off the Silver Chief, or quotes the Dutchman, guess what it is? It's mesothermal.
Which would match up.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And if you look at the matchbox real close, if you have you ever seen it?
No, well, just pictures.
No, okay. Close. You know what else is there that's identifying? Chrysocolla. You know what that is? It's like turquoise. It's related. It's a copper. It's green like turquoise.
Oh, okay. Yeah, very prominent. Yeah, okay.
Okay,
yeah.
that's on the matchbox. That is also on the Silver Chief ore. It's on Dutchman ore. And it's on Cochera.
Okay, since the time you're talking about, nobody's gone back up there, and you need to take us up there. Okay, now you're gonna have to stick around to find out if Ron really does take us up to the mine. Just another one of the many mysteries of the Superstition Mountains.